how do I answer this in an interesting, informative way? I mean, I love narrative. I love stories. I love storytelling. I love talking. It's how people tell each other stories to communicate. You have to have an interesting story to be able to grab somebody's attention and talk about them. And UFOs are so interesting. The idea that these spaceships would carry people from outer space to us. What could be more interesting than that? So the idea of UFOs, to my eye, has been around forever, as long as man has been writing history or before he was writing history. When I was writing the book Phenomena, I interviewed Jacques Vallée, who is the sort of perhaps the world's leading ufologist. And he wrote this amazing book, which I have a copy of, like a hardcover book with beautiful illustrations in it that takes the reader through some of the oldest images in art history. And Jacques has curated them all to show UFOs, the idea of UFOs, throughout recorded history. Mm-hmm. It's always been there. The nuclear thing is interesting. I do know that a theory has developed, a narrative around this idea that, aliens or people from outer space were somehow concerned that we invented this weapon that could end civilization, and they therefore came to aid or help or make themselves noticed. I mean, it's an interesting narrative. It is an interesting narrative. All different kinds of people have different things to add to that narrative, including Jacques Vallée, including Hal Puthoff, including a lot of these people who are leaders in the field. My lens of UFOs comes from very specifically from sources I have worked with who have a different take on that, who see that as part of a strategic deception campaign. Should I give you a little more detail?
Yes, please.
So the first book I wrote, Area 51, is about a CIA base in the middle of the Nevada desert, inside the Nevada test and training range where we set off nuclear weapons. Did you know this?
I did.
Okay. People know that now, and it's great. And then that base is inside an even bigger test and training range where pilots fly out of Nellis. But in the 50s, Area 51 was specifically set up by the CIA to develop the U-2 spy plane, which was this high-flying aircraft, 70,000 feet up it flew. I mean, in 1950, that is just nothing short of a miracle. It was out of the range of Russian surface-to-air missiles. For Area 51, I got to interview the guys who built that airplane from scratch, literally. It did not come with a manual. They built it. I interviewed the pilots who flew it over the Soviet Union, flew it over, all kinds of places. And it was so secret that Eisenhower knew about it, the director of the CIA, and the guys at Area 51 working on it. That's it. It was because it needed to be secret, because if the Russians knew about it, they'd shoot it down, which they ended up doing with Gary Powers in 1960. So the CIA knew it was inevitable that it would get shot down, but they were just playing with fire until it did. But the point of all this is when that was flying, it was mistaken for a UFO. Think about something flying 70,000 feet up. People didn't know airplanes fly at 25,000 feet-ish. Imagine you're somebody that looks up, and also the U-2 has these incredibly long wings. So it just looks like a flying cross. And the reflection of it, it looks like a UFO because it's not where it's supposed to be.
Yeah, I mean, could you even see it 70,000 feet?
You could. And
you could
people
tell
did.
It was a cross?
Well, they didn't know what it was.
Yeah.
But the CIA learned about that, and it was like an oh shit moment. Our project's going to become busted open, the public's going to know about it. And people started writing to their congressmen. I have seen these letters declassified from the CIA. You know, we're really concerned there's a UFO over their state. And then the CIA decided to use this as part of a strategic deception campaign. Well, let's goose this idea that there are UFOs because it's going to hide its cover for the actual U-2. Does that mean that every UFO or every UFO sighting is a U-2? Of course not. But when you look at that as a fact, it becomes interesting in the narrative. When the CIA built the follow-on plane, which was called the A-12 Oxcart. So did you ever see any of the X-Men movies?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so you know that plane they fly?
I do.
Right, so that's the SR-71.
Okay.
That's the Air Force version of it. It's a two-seater. The CIA precursor plane, which was totally secret, not declassified till, I don't know, 20 years ago. It was a one-seater. It had a CIA pilot in it. They flew it out at Area 51. It went Mach 3 something in 1960. 2,300 miles an hour at 90,000 feet. Okay? In 1960, think of what a refrigerator looked like in 1960. Okay? So this was like technology that no one could even comprehend, and they had to keep it secret. And in my interviews with Colonel Slater, who was in charge of the whole program, he took me through the exact details of like people seeing the plane, even in an commercial airplane. The example he gave me was a group of people I think it was an American Airlines flight, saw the Oxcart as it was coming down from 90,000 feet to try to land at Area 51. And they saw it. And they all thought they saw UFOs. And Slater told me the story and showed me some documentation of the FBI meeting the plane in Los Angeles when it landed, saying, like, you did not see a UFO. You must sign this disclosure paper saying you will never share that you saw a UFO. So it built this mystique in, I mean, if the FBI shows up and said, you did not see that UFO.
Who are they doing this to?
The civilians on the American airline. They had them all signed. So the point of this is the CIA would use the sort of mythology of a UFO to help cover the programs that it's trying to hide.
So was the FBI in on it?
The FBI did not know. Good question. The FBI did not know about the A-12 Oxcart. The FBI was told, make all those people sign those non-disclosures and tell them they didn't see a UFO. So then you have all these FBI agents now who are prone to thinking, that was a UFO. Again, does it mean all UFO sightings are the A-12 Oxcart, which doesn't fly anymore? Of course not.
Yeah.
But if you have that information, I think you can think more on balance, for me. But
Yeah, and the deception that the government's capable of.
And also when you're talking about aircraft and airspace, it's very difficult for me to accept that our sacredly guarded airspace is regularly intruded by craft that somebody at the Defense Department doesn't know what it is. I just have trouble believing that, having written the books that I've written about high-performance aircraft.